Okay, so what you need to do is to open the document that I have shared with you. And this is me creating that document actually. So this document will have all of these images in it, and it will have all of the backgrounds taken away from all of the images. And I'm just going to show you again how to do it. And this is showing you how you can't take away a background with an image that has a really complex background to it. So if you want to use an image in this task that's not in this document, then find one that already has a white background, just because when you go to take away that background in PowerPoint, then you can do it really easily. So what you need to do in order to take away the white background is to select the image, then go into picture format, go to the color tab at the top, and then go to the set transparent color and just click on the white area around it. Then what you want to start to do is to think about how you could create a landscape with the images that are in this document or with other images. So for example, you could create like a Candyland kind of landscape. So you then need to collect lots of pictures of sweets or marshmallows or candy floss to create different textures and different objects that you could use to curate your own image. What I'm doing here in this part of the video is just trying to create a house at the moment. So I'm thinking about just using a block of cheese for the main part of the building, and then thinking about maybe adding in these bits of lettuce as little plants by the side of the door, and then thinking about changing scale of different items. So originally I wanted that to be the door, but it didn't look quite right. So I do change that later on. That's where if you just experiment and have a look at the different objects and think about them in terms of their texture or their visual qualities, what they would be best used for. So here I'm using the potato as tiles for the roof. And how I'm quickly copying and pasting that is to just click on the object, hold Control, and then you just drag the image and it duplicates it for you. Then here I'm changing what is at the front. So all of these objects are obviously like one on top of each other, and every time you copy and paste something, it comes to the front. So all I've done there was to just send it back one. So if you go to Arrange and then send backwards or bring forwards or send to the back, if you send it backward, then it would send it backward one. So you might have to do it multiple times, whereas send to the back sends it to the very back of the image. So if I did that to any of these potatoes, it would send it to behind the cheese. So I'd only press send backwards each time. And then all I've done there is just made that into one object. So I've selected all of them and then press Control G or right click and then press group and group all. And then here I've used this kidney bean. I'm thinking about whether that could be used as a window. There it is. I was thinking that could be a much better door shape. And then because I put that as the door, I then had to get rid of the little windows that I then added in because it looked too much the same. And send that behind the plants that I'd got at the side there. So in order to do that, I had to group it all together again and then just bring the lettuce to the very front. So that's how I got around that. Then I thought, well, I still like the candy swirl, so I'll use that as the as the windows instead. And then to get the perspective right, I just made the ones at the back of the house just a little bit smaller so that they looked further away to get the perspective right. Then I made sure all of that was grouped together and just changed the scale of it so that it would fit into the landscape that I'm about to make. So now what I do is I use this purple broccoli to create a grass-like texture. And to do that really quickly, I just duplicated multiple instead of single pieces of broccoli. And what I have done for you is made sure that all of the objects are more easily accessible, because this was quite frustrating when I made it. So I've made sure that they are all smaller and more easy to get a hold of. So then I made some pebbles for my path to get to the house. Then I wanted to make a different kind of grass texture, and because it was already darker, I thought that would give a better sense of depth to send the head at the back further back in terms of perspective. Then I sort of cheated by inserting a picture of the sky that I'd already saved from Google, but you could just copy and paste it straight from Google, just so I had a bit of a nicer, clearer background to work with instead of working against the white. Then from doing that, I thought the broccoli needs to be a little bit smaller because the texture was too sort of obvious. But then also because it was smaller, it sort of made it seem further away as well, more sort of like that sort of forest kind of texture that you get from looking at a forest further away. Kind of like an allotment in the garden, but I thought that the sort of sprouting cabbages looked a bit too bizarre on their own, so I just sort of added to this. I used this chocolate finger to make it look as if it was sort of soil, or that sort of raised beds that you get when you plant potatoes and things like that. I wanted the carrots to sprout out of the ground. This is where you're sort of restricted by using PowerPoint for this task, because you can't crop it to the exact shape. So I've got that sort of really particular right angle at the bottom of the carrot there that I wouldn't really want ideally, but it doesn't look too bad because it is so small. Whereas if you were working with Photoshop, then you'd be able to use the eraser tool or the cropping tool in a different way. Then because I duplicated it, it looked a little bit gappy in the middle there, so I just added in some more plants. And then I was pretty happy with that, so I wanted to save it. And then this is the end result.